Hello and thank you for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalists Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, President Buhari meets with service chiefs ahead of London trip, orders them to take out bandits and kidnappers. Governor Fayemi says terrorists operating as bandits and kidnappers use ransom to fund insurgency, as report says 497 Nigerian policemen killed in 6 years. And later on the show, PDP suspend former Niger Governor Aliyu Babangida for working against Jonathan, others in 2015. I'll be hanging out with Olabisi Deji Folutile and Sam Ibemere. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Glad to have you join us. Another medical trip and another marching order. Familiar stories, yet new hope for better days ahead of his trip to London, the United Kingdom, for routine medical checkup. President Muhammadu Buhari presided over a security meeting with service chiefs at the State House, Abuja. The president ordered them to take out bandits and kidnappers. Let's share some of the reactions after the meeting with you.
Mr. President has made it very, very clear to both the intelligence and operational elements that their first assignment will be to identify the leaders of these bandits and kidnappers and take them out in order to restore confidence in those areas. Mr. President has said that he will no longer tolerate a situation whereby bandits and kidnappers are the ones dictating the pace and setting the tone.
What Mr. President said is that we must bring down the level of violence in the country within a few weeks to enable our farmers to go back to the farms. That is on course. I believe that before the rains come, you would have witnessed a downward trend in the violence across the country. And I'm sure that you will attest to the fact that the heightening operational engagement has yielded positive results.
So what did the president tell you today?
Well, he's of course encouraging us to heighten the tempo of operation. He's satisfied with the way we've started, and he wants us to maintain the tempo and increase it.
Yeah, Sam, let me start with you. Before we go to the marching order given to the military chiefs, let's talk about Mr. President's trip. It's making the round since yesterday when he said he was going to come back second week of April, going for a routine medical checkup, as the Nigerian Medical Association gave April 1st as the day that they went back on strike. A lot of people have been talking and said, Mr. President, going for checkup abroad, that this is quite insensitive about the situation.
Okay, I think the very first thing is to acknowledge or to admit that we're all humans. We can break down, and when we do, we don't have any option but to see our physicians. So if Mr. President has, in his wisdom, decided to take a trip abroad, with respect to seeing his personal physician, at least well within his rights. But I think what bothers most Nigerians is that after nearly 6 years, there is this feeling that we ought to have, put our hospitals, our institutions, to a very decent position where Mr. President wouldn't have to, jet out
and carry out the checkup.
Yeah, so it's very disturbing. If you recall, there were some claims made, a few years back about how the ASO clinic is not in any good condition to render. In fact, that came from the first lady, herself, and you wonder what has happened between then and now. So, one signal that we get, from this planned trip is that the institutions, the medical institutions around Mr. President are still not fit enough to manage him if he breaks down. And so you ask yourself, for those of us who are vulnerable, who are not so very privileged, where do we run to when we have medical conditions to attend to? Probably, left to die. So, again, like I said, it is well within the rights of Mr. President to travel out and see his physicians. But we would like to have a situation where our hospitals are good enough for every Nigerian, not just Mr. President, to go and get medical attention.
If you remember, there was a time Nelson Mandela was sick before he died, and as a former president, and he was admitted in the South African hospital. And says something about our own medical system, that there's been no deliberate efforts to do something in the last 6 years to have a kind of decent facility that can actually treat Mr. President.
I also think Nigerians are also bothered about Mr. President traveling abroad, despite the fact that it is within his rights, because he also gave a directive that public officers should henceforth not get medical attention abroad. He actually said, he put an end to medical trips abroad for public officers. So a lot of people are also thinking that since Mr. President is also a public officer, he should also have lived by his own directive, show example by also getting his medical attention in Nigeria. But the truth of the matter is that we all know the situation of things. You mentioned late Mandela. You cannot compare South Africa with Nigeria. You cannot compare the way our leaders, approach governance with the way these people approach governance. I give you an example. I was in Turkey some years back, and part of the trip was to visit some hospitals. And I visited one of the hospitals which the Turkish people said was specially designed in such a way that even if the United States president visits Turkey and gets sick, he will be able to be treated in that hospital. So people, yes, people make deliberate efforts to put such things in place. Yes, world-class hospitals. We have not done that, unfortunately. And also for people with all the problems in Nigeria, I don't even know how the president could do this within 6 years, because it's like everywhere is full of trouble, left, right, center. But then if we have seen an attempt at doing something, probably people will have been a bit satisfied.
All right, he had a security meeting before he left. He met with the service chiefs. Some people are even saying, some people are even raising the question that did he hand over to the vice president before he left? That perhaps he had to do what he had to do before he went on his medical trip, and everything, the power and everything still with him there. But that aside, but at giving these guys a marching order, the service chiefs, so we know that the federal government will not negotiate with them, and we also know that now they will take them head on now.
Again, I think that what has played out for me is basically optics. Something has to be said, something has to be done before Mr. President, leaves the country. I think it's all part of, putting up an appearance. And you want to ask yourself, does Mr. President need to constantly remind the service chiefs of roles that have been assigned to them over time? For those who didn't, hear the National Security Advisor speak, I'd like to read out again, what he said. Speaking, the NSA said, Mr. President has made it very clear to both the intelligence and operational elements that their first assignment will be to identify the leaders of these bandits and kidnappers and take them out in order to restore confidence in those areas. So, Ayo, the key word here is identify the leaders. Do they need to be told to identify the leaders? In fact, if they can't identify the leaders, they should go to Sheikh Gumi. The man has met severally.
Yeah, he knows them.
Publicly.
He knows
how to reach out to them. He strolls in and strolls out. So, I mean, why take Nigerians for fools? That's my concern. You don't have to dish out these instructions. These officers are responsible and they ought to know what their assignments are. And that's why I think that what happened is just basically for the optics. Let's tell Nigerians something because we are stepping out. These officers know what to do. The other sentence is, Mr. President has said that he will no longer tolerate a situation where bandits and kidnappers are the ones dictating the pace. Was he tolerating that before? If he was tolerating that, then it means that he has failed in his responsibilities. So even those who prepared these statements for Mr. President ought to be very careful the way they couch some of these press releases, because you can fault them. Mr. President can be telling us that Army Chief, go and fetch them, go and do that, because the people know where they are. If they don't know, they should please beg Sheikh Gumi, just like Senator Shehu Sani has done. He has reached out to him and said, we know that you have an idea where these people are. Please intervene. And the man said, look, I've reached out to them. I've asked them to go see the governors of the concerned states. Maybe after that, we can, we will be expecting something to be done. So I think that this is more like a charade, and we need to take ourselves very serious. There is, in my view, absolute lack of political will to deal with this matter. One thing has been ascertained, and that is we have a fairly good knowledge of how to reach out to these people, where they are. Are we exploring this information that is readily available out there? I don't think we are. And we are just allowing the entire thing to fester. And people, take to the camera and speak in such a way as to make Nigerians believe that we are not discerning. I think Nigerians have gone beyond that. Nigerians have become more discerning of situations. They know when the government is serious. So at the moment, I don't think the government is taking Nigerians serious on the matter of insecurity.
So basically, we expect that from now we'll see action, and these security guys are going to stem the tide of the violence up there and stop the regular kidnappers from carrying out their nefarious acts. Based on the president's new directive, are you... This optimism is based on Mr. President's maybe they were waiting for Mr. President to say something. Directive. Now the president has said... Unfortunately, the president has been saying this. In fact, in this month of March alone, the president gave this order 3 times. On March 3rd, the president gave a marching order, specifically, stating this, putting it the same way he has put it. Now, that was the time he gave a no flight orders on Samfara.
And a shoot at sight.
And yes, and a shoot at sight, yes, for anybody carrying AK-47. The same thing that he repeated now. So, the truth is...
Maybe he needs to give a running order, not a marching order.
Yes, maybe a running order this time around. And this is not even the first time. As far back as 2015, Mr. President has been giving a marching order. That is the truth. I have countless examples of when the president ordered a total war on bandits, kidnappers, and insurgents. He did it in Benue at a time when others were being attacked.
It worked in Benue.
Because of the state governor. Because of the state governor.
No.
Not because of...
No, the state governor does not have the wherewithal.
Well, because the state government was also concerned about the problem, and he had a political will to also do something about it, I guess. And when I share this particular news item among our own readers in my online platform today, almost instantly, about 5 or 7 people called me and said, editor, how can you share this? This one are news. How you could, this one is Iran, what is that latest now? Lori Iran. Lori Iran. So you can just imagine how Nigerians feel about it. They just feel that, like you mentioned, that the president wanted to travel. He felt he should say something, and he just needed to say that. But also, it is also a proof that even Mr. President himself is aware that his previous directives and orders have not been working. So that is a take home from this. It shows that he also knows that we still have the problems. Imagine they are FACA 39. They are still in their kidnappers' den.
Since March 11th.
Since March 11th. There are so many other people.
In fact, there's a report that one of the parents died.
Yes. So it shows that well, if they are getting marching order, and this is what we can see. Like you said, I think we need a flying order now. Not even running. Probably when they fly, we will see better results. Yeah.
Now we have the 39 kids that are kidnapped and also the redeemed members there now. And we know the state governor, Nasir El-Rufai, is saying that he's not going to pay for ransom. And he's not going to negotiate with those guys. That the only way out is for military action to take these guys out and everything. Now the parents are now, they've gone to meet Sheikh Gumi, and they are appealing that look, they should just find a way to release their children.
It's a dilemma, I must admit, for the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. It's like what they call, is it catch-22 situation? Being between the devil and the...
I think I have this call. Dr. Akinola is calling us from DC, Washington, DC. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon over there. Yeah,
I'm sure you've been the morning in America there.
Concerning our president's visit to the UK. It is very shameful. One thing I have seen here is this. Somebody says, if you are going to achieve excellence in things, you develop the habit in little things. Excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude. We have a problem in Nigeria. If a president of a country, after 5-6 years, cannot develop a hospital to treat him, then we have a problem. So my concern is this. Why can't he bring the doctors over there to Nigeria? And let's develop some, let's just bring those people over there to Nigeria and treat him.
Thank you, Dr. Akinola. Thank you, Dr. Akinola, for your contribution. So, as we were saying, Sam?
Yeah, I was going to say that it's a big dilemma for Mr. Governor El-Rufai, understandably so. I share his sentiments to some extent. I feel that the bandits are pure criminals, and we must do everything to bring criminals to justice. But there's something unique about this situation: lives. If the means of coercion were totally in the control of Governor El-Rufai, he can then push his position or his argument to whatever level. But as it is, he's not in control. He cannot give directives to the military the way he would wish. And so I think that there's a limit to which he can pursue his I won't negotiate position. Even the strongest countries in the world, the US and the rest of them, have had experiences of this nature, and they've been involved. And they've had to negotiate. So I want to advise that given the limitations that he has as a governor, he cannot push this argument too far. And I think that what needs to be done is to do all that we can within available resources to get the students out there, the more they stay there. In fact, we don't have details. We have our parents dying or a parent dying. We don't have any information about any of them dying. We pray we don't lose any of them. Because these guys are bloodthirsty animals. They can kill. We saw images, videos of them, flogging students who were barely clothed. Then you can imagine what would have happened to them, because they may have they may have faced starvation the last couple of days that we don't have access to them.
They might not even have the wherewithal to feed them well.
They don't even have it. That's the truth.
39 people.
The children that were picked up in Niger, you saw how most of them looked when they came out. Very hungry and tattered. So I can imagine what is going through, the trauma that these students are facing, especially those of them, the ladies who were barely clad when they were picked up. And I'm not sure they'll be humane enough to want to give them clothes to wear. They will not, because they themselves are not even properly clothed.
It's in the forest.
Yeah. So we want to plead with governments, the state and the federal, to do everything possible to get our children, the students, out of the bushes.
I've not read in recent time if as security forces, if they've been able to carry out a rescue operation, like the 39 of them in the hands of those bandits, and successfully, maybe the police or the army, or the way the SEAL team they do in America and everything, and successfully, without incurring any collateral damage, carry out a rescue operation. I've not read about it in Nigeria.
In fact, that is why I think, for me, as good as the stand of Governor El-Rufai, but at the same time, it's like grandstanding. Because you can only talk about not negotiating or taking the kind of hard stand he's taking if you have a superior military power over the enemy.
Under your care too?
Under your control. Because it's so limited. It doesn't even control the security.
Doesn't control the police.
It doesn't control the security. That's why I put everybody together. Now, the federal government that controls the security operatives, like you've rightly pointed out, we've not seen them carry out any single rescue operation without the involvement of payment of ransom one way or the other. And this has been very clear in the past. So what gives anyone the confidence that this time around,
I'm saying that because we're not able to rescue the Chibok girls, we're not able to
they are
rescue
still there. And even some of them that were rescued, we were told they came out, whoever kidnapped, that our security have not been able to identify, but who always talk to us all of the time. They even fight over ransom money, even when our government says they are not paid. And they talk anyhow. We see them with their AK-20, AK-47, on screen all the time. Yet, our government has never done anything without, like begging or pleading with them, even with our money.
Before you can actually attempt rescue of the kind that Ayo is talking about, you have to have intelligence, most importantly.
Like the American
we have intelligence? But do you think we don't have intelligence? What type of intelligence do we still need when we see these people publicly identified, and we even know the person that goes to talk to them and he comes back to tell us what they say?
Sometimes they will tell you that you went with government officials.
Of course. Of course.
And
security operatives.
And also, what type of security intelligence are we talking about?
Much more. Madam, you can walk into this room and identify where Sam is sitting. You can also walk into this room and say, Sam is sitting at this spot, at this latitude or longitude or whatever. I think that's what makes a difference.
Okay.
So you've got to have superior intelligence. That's the fact of the matter. And these criminals, the way they operate, they could move at any time. Do you have technology at your disposal that can track this movement real time all over the place?
But
we don't have.
But do we have the political will? That is another issue. Do we have the political will to actually do all of this? Because I don't want to believe that our security operatives are totally
we don't
incapacitated to that extent.
My answer, madam, is that we don't. And that is why you find that our governors are all singing different tunes, depending on depending on the divide where they have found themselves. Different tunes. Some are telling us don't brand them as bandits, that in fact they are militants. Some are saying no, that these are criminals. So we've got to find a common ground before we can successfully take out these criminals. I just don't call them back. These are terrorists. That's not that word for them.
We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. Still Journalists Hangout. Please stay with us. It's your favorite current affairs programs on TV, and I still have with me Olabisi Deji Folutile and Sam Ibimere. Governor of Ekiti State and the chairman of the Governors Forum, John Kayode Fayemi, is singing new tunes regarding insecurity in the country. Governor Fayemi said proceeds of banditry and kidnapping are being used to sustain insurgency. Meanwhile, a report by Lagos-based intelligence platform shows that 479 policemen were killed between January 2015 and March 2021. Sam, we want to look at the nexus between Boko Haram and this insurgents, these bandits operating. Those 300 and over 300 boys that were kidnapped in Kagara, they were said to have given the credits at a point in time to, what's the name? The
Boko Haram.
The Boko Haram guy. So now, because of the quantum of money these guys collect as a ransom, because I look at it as look, this is about the most lucrative business in town now. You hear them collecting 200 million naira, 100 million naira as ransom, 400 million naira. Sometimes if it has to do with state government, they say they go for as much as 800 million naira. That's close to 1 billion. That's enough to...
to fund any war. Is enough to fund any war. Like you rightly said, and we have canvassed that view here severally, banditry terrorism has become a big industry. Because right here, we've found it difficult to fathom some of the ideas behind these criminal activities. And you can't possibly lay your hands on what is driving a bandit. For the terrorists, we hear it's about trying to build what's that thing called again? A territory that is driven by theocratic ideals, and I hope I'm correct. But back to the question that you raised, it's a big industry, and permit me, I want to describe what is happening as a deregulation and democratization of criminality. Everybody seems in giving the gap that we have everywhere. People are just picking up arms and carving out small territories for themselves, because the money to be made in the absence of real governance, in the absence of security, is so massive. It's so bad that you now have elements within the process. You can kidnap someone and hand over to another person, okay, who has a bigger setup and can demand much more. That is what is happening. We have had so many cases. So those who are kidnapped, victims, are moved from one camp to the other.
They might end up
So it's like
Boko Haram.
Yeah, it's like the days of licensing. You know, they give you a license to import something. If you don't have the resources, you sell it to another person who probably is better placed. That is what is happening. It's been reported, and there is evidence that that is what is going on, and that is why, you know, people will make references to the bigger boys in Sambisa, because once they take hold of these victims, they put a higher price to it. That's the truth. So it's a big challenge for us as a people, for us as a country. And you can tell that we are not far from anarchy. We're not far from anarchy. We're just probably a few steps away from being a failed state, where people just pick up guns, carve out territories for themselves, and operate comfortably, and tell you you cannot come in except you pay money. And the country is moving on as if our sovereignty is not being threatened. Here, we have said to ourselves, if we believe that this is a challenge, can we consolidate our response in such a manner that we can take out these guys, decide on a flank, take it out, and then march on other flanks? But we don't seem to have a very well coordinated strategy to take on these things. And it's festering. First, it started in the northeast, it's gone to the northwest, back to the central, and very close, Ayo. We've had cases in Ogun, where even people have lost their homes and have had to move to Benin as refugees in our country. And we think that these issues have not come as far as Lagos. How far is Ogun State from Lagos? We've got to be very careful. We have a big challenge on our hands.
BC, what's the connection between these bandits and Boko Haram?
I think Governor Fayemi did a very beautiful analysis of the problem. I listened to him. He explained how bandits get money to fund terrorist activities. And he explained the problem so well that where I sat listening to him 2 days ago, the question that came, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah. The question that came to my mind was, if our political leaders understand the problem this clearly, then why are we having problem dealing with the problem? Because at the end of the day, he also pointed to the fact that this insecurity is not going to be fought by military alone, that there are so many other factors involved. And he mentioned the fact that it's a product of our poor economic growth indices and the rest. Now, the question is, what are we doing to correct these foundational problems? Because we are talking about the bandits today, forgetting that we are already breeding another set of bandits that will even take over from these ones. Unless we do something,
they are increasing in numbers every day.
Unless we ought
to treat the root cause.
We treat the root cause to halt the production of bandits. God forbid, 50 years from now.
50 years?
No,
that's very far.
What I'm saying is that 50 years from now, we'll still be talking about the same problem. Now, the problem is this. We have insecurity and social tension being aggravated because of our deteriorating economic indices. Now, the level of unemployment is high there. We have issues
I even read it that Bloomberg said is the highest in the world now.
Second, I think
the last time it was second?
Second to the highest in the world.
33%.
Oh, have we made that significant leap to become number one?
I think I also read something like that about 3 or 4 days ago.
The last time I was there, we were second.
So now we have high level of unemployment. We have a huge number of out-of-school children. And coupled with this kidnapping stuff, they are increasing. We have some regions that, you know, in the past, they don't even want to send their children to school. Now they manage to send them to school.
Okay.
They are kidnapped.
Okay, I have a caller from Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Ayo. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm Ralo calling from Shasha, Lagos.
Laolu.
Ralo, R-A-L-U, Ralo.
Okay, Ralo.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I heard our president have traveled, about now would have left for England. And our politicians will come up every time it is time to campaign. I remember that it was the APC that said no public official will ever go abroad for treatment. But every single one of them have broken that rule. And
we've gone past that stage.
should help us tell the populace, any politician that makes promises and cannot fulfill it.
Thank you, Ralu. Thank you for calling. Bisi said something because that what Governor Fayemi said, apart from the military option, we ought to look at, in the Southwest, these guys come in guise of area boys. In the South, yes, area boys, as in no job, unemployed youths locking around the bus stops, and they are the agberos and the area boys, and some of them the educated ones that, you know, that are in school and everything, they take to yahoo, and the girls take to runs and everything. So the growing number of youths in Nigeria that are unemployed is quite alarming. And if these people get offers from insurgents, from any other distance, they can join.
Absolutely. Is the unemployment field is where most of these people are recruited from. No doubt about it. It's devil's workshop. That's basic. I also listened to Governor Fayemi, who happens also to be
like social security.
No. And that's why he was particular about the political side to the conflict. He said, yes, you can roll out the tanks and fight, but the other side, which the government appears not to be exploring, is the political side to it. You know, she talked about the will. But again, it's like going around, I'm coming back to the same spot. Fayemi is the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum.
Don't forget he has a PhD in war studies.
Yeah.
He's really grounded in matters like this.
You can appreciate the background to the issues that he raised and, you know, the solutions he was profiling. But I'm making reference to the fact that he's the chairman of the Governors Forum because he holds a very responsible position within the governors circle to be able to raise these concerns and bring them to the table for very frank discussion, very frank and honest discussion. And so the question I want to ask is, how much of the ideas that have been canvassed by Dr. Fayemi have been laid before his peers? If he did, are these issues being honestly discussed? If not, why are they not being considered? That is where the political will comes. So everyone agrees that unemployment is a big challenge. But what are the governors doing? What is the center doing? What kind of policies, sustainable policies, are being put in place to ensure that the Boko Harams of this world, the terrorists, the bandits of this world don't find an easy recruitment ground for followers? So the challenge, not just for us, but for our leaders, and they must accept that. I mean, we've elected them to take care of us in terms of security, in terms of poverty alleviation. We want to see them implement or execute policies that are sustainable. Fayemi should be challenged. I want him challenged. I want the governors, okay, to come together and deal with the issues that have been raised by one of their own and tell Nigerians why we can't explore the political side to solving the conflict that confronts us as a people.
All right. On a final note now, it is said that Retrospect is the sweetener of life. In what appears to like living in the past, Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Niger State, has suspended former Governor Muazu Babangida Aliyu over allegations of anti-party activities leading to the cracks in the party in 2015. At an emergency stakeholders meeting in Minna, on Monday, the PDP accused the former governor of working against the party and supporting the APC in the 2015 election. If you remember, ahead of that 2015 election, Muazu led the vanguard of the governors that PDP chieftain that was talking about a gentleman's agreement within the party, that it should be not south, that former President Jonathan should not contest, that it should be a breach of the agreement reached. And if you remember, the APC capitalized on that to field a northern candidate. And Aliyu Babangida might not, he's now being tried for what happened in 2015. What do you make of this?
Politics.
Pure politics.
Nothing more than politics. Interestingly, the PDP also issued a statement yesterday claiming that the purported suspension was fake news. But apparently the meeting held because the people that attended the meeting were stated, the venue of the meeting was stated, and the decision taken at that meeting was also stated. So talking about fake news, it is not fake news. The only thing is that you know from what happened that there is definitely a crack within the...
Maybe the national level...
I guess the man is having problem at the state level.
Okay.
So at the national level, they don't have any problem with him. And you now ask yourself, something happened in 2015. This is 2021.
That's the interesting side to it.
That's the interesting side to it. Is Jonathan contesting now? Who is even contesting now? Are we even having any presidential contest now? And so how can you now just wake up and accuse somebody, or you want to punish somebody for
anti-party
activity? They have to go and look into the books
that was committed as far back as 2015. You see, these politicians are jokers. And they are so, I don't want to use that word, because some good ones among them may feel offended. But a lot of politicians, I'm sorry to say, they don't actually think deeply before they come up with some of their tactics and strategies. They think Nigerians can just be taken as fools at any point in time. Even if you have a problem within your party at the local level, of course, I've been reading a lot of things from that Niger State in particular. There are things you can do. There are ways you can even fight yourselves within yourselves without bringing some things into the public domain that will make you look as if you don't really know what you are doing, or you don't know what you are saying. More so when you say something, the national party is also saying something else. So you don't even know what is happening. For me, this kind of politics, how do you now expect them to even plan and make policies that will affect the lives of the citizens positively should they come to power? If all they think about is this kind of in fact, too little like squabbles that cannot even be defined. So that is a big challenge, and that is what we see many times within our political elite.
I would totally agree with BC that they don't think. These guys even think ahead. This might not be unconnected with
maybe they don't think positively.
Now that this guy is not taken out,
maybe
and an allegation and something is not, they don't dust their books to look for something to take him out. Somebody might be eyeing something in 2023, and this guy might be a distraction. They think ahead of us. I can tell you.
No, you've said it. You've said it all, and that's a fact. Politics is an interest-driven game.
Oh man!
And BC says, I mean, why would you want to go public and wash
something
your
that happened in 2015,
linen?
In 2021?
In fact,
does the book.
In fact, when they go public, that's when they enjoy the game, because you have to have a way to rubbish your opponent.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. So, again, interestingly, what you consider what you take to heart. For them, it's a game.
That's not interesting.
You'll be shocked that the same Mwazu will call the man in charge at the local government level and say, you stubborn foolish boy, you want to remove me. Look at what happened to Shomole.
Yeah.
Did you understand?
It was his ward chairman.
Do you understand? So
that started the crisis.
So it's an interesting game. If you're thinking morals, you won't be able to play it.
And you won't understand it.
Not just in Nigeria, even in the US. I mean, we saw what played out in the US. Did you ever imagine that the level of politics that was played ahead of the US elections would manifest in a society that all of us consider, very civilized? So it's pure politics. When I see stories like this, I feel amused, because the first thing I saw when the story broke was 2015. You are latching on to something that happened in 2015 to suspend a man. Is it 6 years after?
Yes.
And it simply shows that it's a plaything, okay, as far as I'm concerned. But what you and I consider as plaything is very serious. The objective, basically,
what is at stake?
Yeah, what is at stake?
And people they will know.
Yeah, what is at stake is a struggle for the political structure of the party at the local government level, which would also manifest at the state level. So you've got to start even at the ward level. So that is what is playing out. 2023 is, for you and I, will seem very far, but it's not far for the average politician. So this is the time to seize the party structure, okay, and determine who emerges either at the ward level, at the state level, or even at the center. Same thing is happening in APC, even ahead of 2023.
I have a friend on the social media. What he does is count down to the next election.
To the next election.
So this morning I woke up to see that it's 868
Wow.
days to the 2023 election.
But seriously, our brand of politics sometimes
to the end of this administration, there's the counting. So it's an interest-driven game. But Ali Babangida, don't forget, he used to be one of those governors. At first, he joined those that wanted to move out of PDP. But the last minute, him and Governor Sule Lamido,
they changed their mind.
Yes, they changed their mind. And I thought this guy, since that time, I've not heard much about him. But as we said earlier, 2023 games, and these people, they are really, really scheming.
And I also think that maybe at the national level, the PDP at the national level may think they still need him more. And probably that is why they quickly, because it was actually, I was surprised.
That's what really matters.
Yesterday it was the PDP secretary, public relations, whatever. Publicity secretary. Kola. Immediately, I forwarded that link. He just said fake news. And on every platform where that link was forwarded, he kept putting fake news. But I was like, but this thing is not fake news. It happened. So we need to define what fake news is and what you don't agree with is. So, but I want to believe that for PDP, there is something they need in Aliyu.
Of course.
But at that ward level, especially one guy has been going about writing opinions and doing a lot of things.
I get his releases.
You get his releases
every time.
Every time. So apparently, like we have all agreed, it's like they want to take charge of the ward, the party structure at the local government level. That is all. But then let's wait and see how they are going to fight their battle and whatever comes out of it. But I think Aliyu Babangida is still a prominent member of the party.
A former governor.
Yes, I think even though he made those moves at that time to go to APC and he didn't go, I think he's still considered a loyal party member, at least at the national level. And I also think that the people fighting him think that he has naturally he would have an upper hand being a former governor. And I also think he controls the party at the local
And don't forget, it's states now. I think it's now an APC state, and it will be like the opposition figure. That's
but will it be? He can't contest. It will just be a godfather.
But these politicians are incurable optimists. Even when it's glaring that the party in control is very strong and dominant, they never give up. You can't convince a politician that he can't win an election.
They feel angry.
They feel they can always play games, around and get what they can get what they want. You see, but for me, what I have noticed and what most Nigerians have come to appreciate is that there's hardly a difference between the political parties that we have at the moment. No ideologies, no deep-seated ideologies. So
basically, APC and
those who are after
those
who are after the former governor probably have sensed a few things around him, and if it's comfortable for them to chase him away and get him to join another party and create an opportunity for them to seize the power structure, the party structure, they will gladly do so. So what we think on the outside are deep-seated quarrels are hardly quarrels. It's just contestation for power.
Driven game.
That's just what it is.
In fact, what you mentioned now, I think is a major problem. Because from what the release of PDP at the national level, they are saying that their enemies are the ones spreading this fake news because they want the party to be destroyed. I think they are also afraid that Aliyu might also move to another party.
And they'll be moving. Even when Umahi moved, we were told it was fake news until it became too obvious that it wasn't a fake story.
I want to thank you, Sam Ibimere. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
And Olabisi Deji Folutile, thank you. And Jide is on kind of official assignments. I think we'll be back sometime this week. And that's all on Journalists Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. Don't forget to watch our Journalists Hangout Sunday special from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.